Justice League came out in 2017, and today is known as one of the most expensive films ever made. Which I'll talk about its budget in a little bit. But first I want to talk about this movie in general. The plot to this movie is basically where Bruce Willis comes across her ally and teams up with her ally, Diana, to take down a near unstoppable threat, along with other heroes known as Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash. I had no anticipation for seeing this movie. I didn't think this movie was going to be terrible, but the trailers for this movie didn't really hook me. But honestly, after seeing Justice League, I didn't really know how to feel about this movie. It's not terrible, but after everything came together, this movie isn't that bad, honestly. I honestly think critics were kind of too hard on this movie. This movie didn't receive a lot of great feedback from critics. It only scored a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I honestly don't think this movie's that bad. It's not great or amazing. It's not like Wonder Woman. It's not going to be the next Dark Knight movie. No. This movie is just good enough, in my opinion. You can tell that this film actually means this film. You can watch this film and tell that the filmmakers are actually trying. They put enough effort to actually make this a good enough film. And the characters here and there are a couple of characters that are interesting. The others don't hardly have anything interesting about them. But I think the most important aspect about this film is to see these characters and then come together. And especially the climax and the concluding moments of this film. Which I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it involves one in particular superhero from the DC universe. And they mention him throughout the entire film, technically. Or every here and there. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of this incarnation of the Batman. I prefer Michael Keaton's Batman and Christian Bale's Batman. I'm not a big fan of this Batman, though. I mean, I think this Batman is a little too serious. This carnation of Batman is a little too serious, along with the one in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which makes it not really interesting to watch. I mean, the other Batman incarnations were serious too, but they actually had many elements that made me love Michael Keaton's and Christian Bale's Batman. Like, those Batmans are phenomenal. I just didn't have interest in this incarnation of the Batman at all, and that was kind of sad because he's technically my favorite super. Look at this. But Diana, really good in this movie, honestly. I also liked Cyborg. I liked sort of how he had a small character arc to him. I thought Aquaman looked totally BA, and I'm excited to see his new movie. And The Flash, let's see. I thought he got a little under my skin sometimes. There were times where he was getting a little annoying. And he wasn't always annoying, but there were just times every here and there where he just make a small joke or say something that doesn't really work. And it got under my skin. But altogether, as a whole, the supers are okay. Some of them are likable. But I guess that the most important aspect of it is that since we know all of the supers and we all love them, it makes the whole group a success, technically. Let's see. The graphics in this movie are phenomenal. This is some of the best looking This film has some of the best looking like effects in any DC movie, in my opinion. Like, the effects and the action sequences are really, really well set up. I wouldn't really notice this without anyone telling me that this is one of the most expensive movies of all time, because I couldn't really tell, honestly. This movie's only 2 hours long, too. Just 2 hours. I mean, I've seen DC movies that were 2 hours and 30 minutes, or 2 hours and 40 minutes. And they had better writing, they had better action sequences. I wouldn't say they had better graphics, but movies like The Dark Knight any of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, those are just way better written, and they have great psychological and physical action sequences, and those are, and great characters and great storytelling and great direction. Those are the things that make the Dark Knight trilogy a success. But but Justice League, and I'm finding many words to say, because when I first saw this movie, I didn't really know what to think about this movie until everything came together. So honestly, this movie is good enough. I'd say this movie is good enough. There are things to like about this movie, but this movie is very flawed. This is nowhere near a great movie or even a masterpiece. It's not going to be a classic, but I think it's a good enough movie. One thing that I did like about this film is that it sort of delivers an Avengers feel to it, and it sort of delivers an Avengers feel to it, and that's what I liked. Each of the characters rooted for one another. They helped each other, no matter what was happening. No matter what was happening, if it was disasters or anything like that, and that felt like a giant breath of fresh air, honestly. Let's say the flaws that I did have with this movie, like I already mentioned some of my flaws, like some of the characters aren't really interesting. The writing isn't really that strong in this movie, honestly. I think the writing could have been something brand new, honestly. The writing could have been a little better than the first Avengers film. The first Avengers film was amazing, but you could have done a lot with Justice League. And I thought one big thing that made this film flop a little bit was the writing, and it didn't really work for me. There are some moments where the characters have great writing, but other than that, once you bring the main villain in the plot, the writing doesn't really stand out, actually. But overall, Justice League is a good enough movie, and it's not great, but I honestly think the DCU at least, is getting on a little better track, is getting on a better track with its movies. And I can't wait to see Aquaman, honestly. I really can't. Because I'm actually really excited. I'm going to give Justice League a B-. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Look forward to my next review. For my next review, I'm going to be continuing my series of reviewing my favorite movies of all time, and you'll find out what movie it is. But I'm going to be continuing my series of reviewing my favorite movies of all time, and when Aquaman comes out, I'm going to be reviewing that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best. I love every single one of you, and as always, I am Mario Fan 520, and I will see you next time. Peace out.